Last week, a Netflix original movie came out, and because I had Netflix, I got to see it. And let me just say, this was a very powerful movie. And it's really hard to watch. Beasts of No Nation tells the story of a young boy named Agu. Agu has a pretty normal family life. He's living in Africa, has a loving family. But something happens to take him away from all of that. After devastating circumstances that I'm not going to go into, Agu is left alone in the jungles and he comes across a band of mercenaries. A band of mercenaries run by Idris Elba. Idris Elba is the commandant and he takes in Agu, and Agu becomes a child soldier. So this film is the life of a child soldier and the horrors of war, the destruction of innocence, and just the hell he gets put into. Let me just say, this is probably the best child performance I've seen this year. Now the boy who plays Agu, his name is Abraham Attah, and he is really great in this movie. Like I said, it's the best child performance I've seen this year so far. And of course, just as good is Idris Elba, who's really great. He's a great actor. And so he's great at this ferocious commandant. This person who won't let anything get in his way to gain more power. A guy that is able to manipulate and motivate his soldiers in a way that makes it believable. He's one of those villains that you can understand why people would follow him. But then you get a little bit deeper into his character and you realize just how frickin' evil he is. He's a manipulator, a motivator, and he is evil. This is yet another movie about the horrors of war, and it's not as great, it's not as visceral or as horrific as some of these other movies have come out about horrors of war. But it's made just that level because it's through the eyes of a child, and you have this innocent child that's taken away and forced to do these horrible acts, forced to kill people in brutal ways, and that's what makes it just as hard to watch as some of these other movies that tell the horrors of war. And so you get these really powerful, very horrific, very hard to watch scenes, and I love it for that. Because let's face it, this is a movie about child soldiers. If it wasn't hard to watch, it would not be doing its job right. So just know that this is definitely not for everyone, and if you don't want to see children doing cruel, awful things, then this is not the movie for you. I think there are 3 or 4 moments in this movie where my mouth dropped and I was horrified, and it was very powerful. That is a little bit of Beasts of No Nation's downfall, though, is that it didn't feel like this the whole way for me. It only felt like it in particular dramatic scenes. I think there was like 3 or 4 scenes where I was horrified, and then another scene where I was just like, oh my god, I know what's happening. Thank God they didn't show it, but I know what's happening. Oh my god. But then the in-between times are a little bit of a downer for me, and I just didn't like it as much as these really epic, memorable moments. Also, despite it being a child soldier movie, a war drama, a movie about the horrors of war, there isn't a lot of action that you might think it would have. It definitely has action moments, but it's not as many as you would think, and so if you're going into it wanting a action-packed war movie, this might not be for you either. I love that the movie spends almost 20 minutes of Agu's family life, so you get a little bit of a sense of his family, you get to care about him, get his relationships with his father, with his brother, mother, and younger siblings. And that's really important because when the time comes where he's all alone, it's all the more heartbreaking. I also love the relationship that Agu has with this other child soldier named Stryker, who doesn't speak whatsoever. At the beginning, Stryker's the one that captures Agu and ultimately forcing Agu into this life. But eventually they sort of become friends, and Stryker is like this hardened soldier already. They're about the same age, but he's this hardened soldier. He knows what life's like already. He's been desensitized to the violence. And so eventually it's Stryker that's ultimately helping Agu out, helping him get in tune with this violence and get with the program. But he's also there for him emotionally, even though Stryker doesn't talk. There's a really nice unsaid bond between these two characters, and I wish there was a little bit more of that. It has all the right beats, but there's something missing where it just needs a scene or two more of these two bonding, and I would have been completely hooked with this chemistry. I think the film does a very excellent job at the progression and the character arc of its main character. Because at first he's a pretty normal kid, he's really nice, very funny, he's just having fun. Then he's sent into a horrible situation and he becomes scared and gets into this mercenary group. But then knowing what Agu's gone through already, and then hearing the Commandant's speech and how he's going to get Agu into this military group and his motivations, you understand how Agu would be motivated to join this mercenaries, and he becomes very compelling. It's sad that such an evil person can be that compelling and you as the audience almost agree with it, because I almost felt like I was agreeing with him. It's hard. And then throughout the beginning, he's still playing with some of these other childhood soldiers, but as war progresses, as he gets into more situations, you have less and less moments where he's able to just be a kid, and it is sad. And you just also see just how, not mature, but just how this war has just changed him completely. In all honesty, Beasts of No Nation is quite the masterpiece, and it is a really powerful, moving film. Just very, very hard to watch. But even with that said, there's some things about this film that I do feel are missing out. Some moments also that I feel are a little too slow. And so for me, I can't give this 5 stars, even though it probably deserves it. And I'm going to give Beasts of No Nation 4.5 stars. So do you have Netflix Instant? Have you seen Beasts of No Nation? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. And if you haven't, what is your favorite war movie about the horrors of war? And as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.